This is Pat Schwenk from For the Family. Today we are talking with author and speaker Gary Thomas about a brand new book that he has coming out this fall. In addition to that, Gary will be offering some biblical wisdom for couples who really desire to grow and cultivate a lifelong love together. And so as always, we pray that this is an encouragement to you, to your marriage, and to your family.
The book is called A Lifelong Love. The subtitle is key. What if marriage is about more than just staying together? I'm passionate about this. I wrote Sacred Marriage, believe it or not, 15 years ago. I've been married about 15 years. Here I'm writing one now, married about 30. So I've been praying about marriage, studying marriage, living in marriage twice as long, reading on it. And it's really, how do we build a lifelong love? Sacred Marriage was about how God uses marriage to shape us and form us spiritually. A lifelong love is a venture into intimacy. I've really learned to connect my marriage with my worship. And that's what gives me a lifelong love, because the older I get, the more important worship becomes to me. It's a part of who I am. And so when my marriage is connected with my worship, as my appreciation for worship grows, my appreciation for my marriage grows, my respect for my wife grows. And I talk about how we can do that spiritually through scriptures and what I mean by that. It might sound dangerous to some. Promise you it's very orthodox. I believe it honors God and looks at scriptures appropriately. And then how do we build a lifelong love with each other? How do we grow together? You know, I've found, and I warn my couples that I'm marrying about this when they're in premarital counseling, too many people think that marriage is like planting a tree instead of building a house. And when you plant a tree, you put the seedling in the ground, you stake it, you fertilize it, you water it, you care for it. And after a couple years, boom, it takes off. You don't really have to do anything. And that's what we do with love. In the early days when infatuation is high and the relationship is young, we talk, we touch, we plan dates, we are intentionally kind with each other. We go through premarital counseling, and that builds intimacy. And then we think once we're married, it'll just grow. Here's the thing, it doesn't. It's more like a house that you build brick by brick. And you might build a house up to 80%. If you stop, it doesn't finish itself. In fact, it's worse. It's left out in the elements and it begins to deteriorate. And a lot of marriages deteriorate because we stop building them. So if we want lifelong intimacy, if we want, and I can say this honestly, if we want to care more about our marriage at year 30 than at month 30, that's an intimacy we have to choose. And so I look through these chapters. How do we choose that intimacy? How do we avoid what I call the power shifts, where we can start to become jaded and callous toward each other? How do we keep growing together? How do we grow in our understanding and appreciating for each other? And then the third leg of the stool, first one is God and worship. The second one is building intimacy with each other. It's really exploring what it means to love. If we want a lifelong love, well, what does love mean? And it's just a misunderstanding in our culture. We equate love and desire. I show why that's a problem. I talk about how we want to live in the first dimension of marriage, not the second dimension. There's a question we can ask ourselves every day that will change the complete attitude of our marriages. And so we look at what love means, how practical it is. I'm so excited to get this out. It's been revolutionary for me in my own life, and I hope it will be to others. I hope it'll serve God's church well.